Right, so our last topic is simple interest, and simple interest is interest calculated on the principal balance. So interest is kind of like you put $5 in the bank, and your money, because of inflation, is growing, and so you kind of get extra money, I guess is the right way to say that. So like you'd get free money because the money in the bank is growing, because of inflation and such. So it's what simple interest is. There is a formula. We would use the formula where it's I equals P, capital P, lowercase r, and lowercase t. So capital I equals capital P times lowercase r times lowercase t. And I'm just going to write it more, you'll see it more like just I equals P RT, right? And that means P times R times T. Okay, so that's why these things are here, right? Times. Okay, so what do all the letters mean, right? I is interest earned. So that's most of the time what we're going to find out. Principal, P is principal. We talked about that in what simple interest is, principal amount. So what that really means is that that's the original or the starting value. So like that's how much you borrowed. If we talk about loans, that's how much you put into the bank account if we're talking about bank accounts. R is the interest rate. So the rate is the R. And that's normally a percent that you need to convert to a decimal. Okay. And we're going to practice that. And T is time, and that's generally in years. But sometimes you might be given months to convert to years because everything's in years. Okay, so in the first couple of examples, we want to convert the percent into a decimal because, just in case people have forgotten that, by now. But let's do that real quick. So remember, we can convert by shifting the decimal 2 places to the left. So in the case of 5%, there's an implied decimal place here, and we move it once, twice. There's no number there, put in implied zeros. So 5% as a decimal is 0.05, right? 4.5, you probably think of as long as it's already a decimal. You still move it once, twice over. So we still move it over. So now it's 0.045. The next one is 10%. So it's after the 0 and move it once, twice. So it's just 0.1, or you could put 0.10, doesn't matter. All right, I want you to try the bottom 3 on your own. So do these ones real quick for me. So pause and try those. All right, so hopefully for 2%, you got 0.02. For 20%, you got 0.2. And 5.5%, you got 0.055. Okay. So now we want to convert the time expressed in years to a decimal. And we can do that by doing the number of months divided by 12. So we divide the number of months by 12. So if we do 6 months divided by 12, 6/12ths, do that in your calculator. That should give you 1/2, right? Yeah, I'll do the first row. Okay, 3 months divided by 12. When you do that in the calculator, it should give you 1/4. And 24 divided by 12, it's going to give you 2. Okay. So I want you to take each of these bottom numbers here and figure out how many years it is. If you end up getting a decimal, that's okay. or if it just is a improper fraction, that's also fine, okay? So try those bottom four, pause now, bottom three. All right, so I put the answer to kind of both. So if you did 9 divided by 12, you would have either gotten 3/4 or 0.75. For 15/12, you either got 5/4 or 1.25. And then for 30/12, you get 5/2 or 2.5 years. So the important part is that it's always in years. Most of the time it gives it to you in years, but sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so that's when you have to convert. So we just did a little bit of practice there. So let's do example 3. Okay, so find the amount of interest. So we're finding interest, which remember is your I, on a $450 deposit that was left in an account for 6 years with a 2% interest rate. So deposit, that's our principal amount. Years is our time. And our interest rate is our, is our rate. So I normally put it on the side here. So my interest is what I'm finding. So I don't know that yet. My principal we said was $450. My rate is 2%, but let's put that to a decimal. And that's 0.02. And my time is 6. Then we're going to plug that into the formula, right? The formula is I equals principal times your rate times the time. Let's plug that all in. I equals principal 450 times your rate of 0.02 times your time of 6. All right, now plug that whole thing right into your calculator. So just plug that in. So do 450 times 0.02 times 6. And what do you get when you do that? Your interest is then 54. And remember, we want to label, and it is a dollar amount. We're making $54 in 6 years on that $450. All right, let's try the next one. All right, so again, now we're doing a simple interest for a loan. So a loan of $500. The interest rate is 6.5 and our years is 3. So if we're taking money, that's our principal. So that's 500. Our interest rate is our 6.5%. Let's make that a decimal, 0.065. And our time is 3 years. And let's plug that in to I equals T times R times T. So my principal was $500. So even though it's a loan, we don't make it negative because we still want to calculate the interest, so we don't have to make it negative. Oh, I'm merging my numbers together, sorry. 0.065. There we go. And my time is 3 years. So now let's plug that into the calculator. 500 times 0.065 times 3. And think about what you get when you do that, and it should be money. I got 97.5. Remember, money, we need to add that 0 at the end, right? Make it 97.50. All right. I want you to try example 5. Okay, so start with example 5 right now. All right, so hopefully you got that your principal was 15,000, your year was 5, and your rate was 11% or 0.11. So now plug that into the formula and try to figure out how much interest there is. And we'll go back to the real question here, okay? So hopefully you set it up like this, 15,000 times 0.11 times 5. And hopefully you got 8,250. Now this is how much interest they're paying on a loan. But the real question was, how much will she pay for the car, including interest? So we have a principal of 15,000 and we want to pay for interest because we have to pay for both. So the real answer is we take our 15,000 of our principal and add our 8,250 to it, because that's the total we're paying. And that's going to give us 15,000 plus 8,250. So we're actually paying for this car $23,250. Okay. So make sure we're reading the whole question, since it's not just asking for interest. It wants what will she pay for the car, including interest. So you have to combine both. Okay. So I want you to try to start looking at example 6. So read that to yourself for me. So we were left an inheritance. She had 50,000 put into a bank account. So that's the principal. That bank account earns 2% interest. That's your rate. We withdrew the money for $59,000. And how long? So we need to find, instead of rate interest, we're finding time. But first, we need to figure out our interest. Well, when we took it out, it was $59,000. When we put it in, it was $50,000. So how much money did we make? Our interest was $9,000, right? Because we did 59 minus 50. Our principal was that 50,000, and our rate is 0.02. We want to find time. So let's plug it into the formula. Okay. Where we're finding time. All right, so we know our interest is 9,000. Our principal was 50,000. Our rate is 0.02. And we need to find time. So let's do what 50,000 times 0.02 is first. We want to combine our like terms. So let's multiply that first. 50,000 times 0.02, right? Think about this as solving the river. We have 9,000 because we didn't do anything on that side. 50,000 times 0.02 ends up being 1,000. And then don't forget about t. So how do we get t alone? We divide both sides by 1,000. And then 9,000 divided by 1,000 is 9. So how long was the money in the account? It was in the account for 9 years. So let's make sure you ask questions in class.